Only silence can contain them. And in the case of the 43 missing students of Ayotzinapa, silence wasn't an accident. It was engineered. Tonight, on Total Redaction, we're integrating something no documentary has ever attempted. The official narrative. The forensic reconstruction, the army leaks, and the human rights record. To expose a state operation so coordinated, so redacted, and so tightly controlled, that even today, 11 years later, the truth remains classified under national security. Here is what is not in dispute. 43 students from the Ayotzinapa rural teachers college left their campus on September 26, 2014. They traveled to Iguala to commandeer buses, a long-standing tradition for political demonstrations. But by dawn, 43 were gone, and Mexico would be thrust into its most infamous human rights crisis in modern history. According to UN AIM's 10-year report, police from 3 municipalities, working with a local criminal organization called Guerreros Unidos, opened fire at multiple sites, killing several students and bystanders, including members of a youth football team traveling through the same corridor. According to Amnesty International, this was an enforced disappearance carried out with state participation and followed by an equally deliberate cover-up. That's the baseline. That's the part everyone agrees on. What happens next is where the story fractures into propaganda, redactions, and evidence the Mexican government never expected the public to see. In 2015, the Mexican government delivered what they called La Verdad Histórica, the historical truth. The claim? Local police handed the students to Guerreros Unidos. The cartel killed them, burned all 43 bodies in a garbage dump, scattered the ashes in a river. Problem: almost none of it was true. Independent experts confirmed the dump could not have produced a fire large enough to incinerate 43 bodies. Key witnesses were tortured into confessing. Evidence was planted, moved, or destroyed. Federal forces, and notably the Army, were suspiciously absent from official statements despite documented presence in Iguala that night. This was not a truth. It was a firewall. The first cracks appeared not in Mexico, but in Chicago. U.S. federal indictments showed that Guerreros Unidos was running drug shipments using Greyhound-style passenger buses, the same kind of students commandeered. This sparked the infamous fifth bus theory, documented extensively by journalist Francisco Goldman in The New Yorker. One of the buses taken that night may have been carrying heroin or bulk cash for the cartel SUS pipeline. Forensic architecture later reconstructed the entire movement of that bus and discovered it existed. The students boarded it. It was removed from the scene. It later reappeared as a different bus with altered identifiers. This bus, and its illicit cargo, may be the motive behind the coordinated attack. If even one of those buses carried cartel product destined for the U.S., then the students didn't just commandeer a bus. They took a bus loaded with the cartel's illicit contraband. Now we introduce the forensic reconstruction, the part the government hoped no one would ever do. Forensic architecture synchronized. Video radio transmission, CCTV survivor testimony, ballistic analysis, architectural modeling, and satellite imagery to rebuild the night of September 26 in minute-by-minute detail. What they found obliterates the official story. The attacks were coordinated. Multiple police forces, municipal, federal, ministerial, maneuvered with synchronized timing, communicating through radios the Army was monitoring in real time. Multiple sources confirmed soldiers and local police were not only present, but directly involved in attacks on multiple buses. The army knew exactly what was happening. Police shot at the wrong bus, twice. A bus full of youth football players was riddled with gunfire because officers mistook it for the students' vehicle. Ballistic mapping proves intentional lethal force, not crowd control. Cameras were disabled, phones destroyed, lights cut. A pattern of synchronized evidence suppression emerges, not chaos, not improvisation, but procedure. Now we arrive at the part the Army never wanted public. In 2022, the activist hacker collective Guacamaya leaked millions of documents from SEDENA, the Mexican Army. Inside those files, investigators discovered references to a covert strategy, Operation Limpieza, Operation Cleanup. Its purpose? Protect the Army's image, shore up the official, historical truth, undermine independent investigators, coach soldiers to avoid inconsistencies, criminalize the students, pressure the president directly on behalf of implicated officers. One leak was a private letter from Defense Secretary Luis Crescencio Sandoval to President López Obrador, defending Captain Jose Martinez Crespo, the first Army officer arrested in connection with Ayotzinapa. But leaked WhatsApp chats show a different Crespo, one allegedly messaging a Guerreros Unidos hitman, discussing wounded students and telling him to leave them to die. This is no longer just a disappearance. It's an institutional operation and an institutional cover-up. 11 years later, the Army still withholds hundreds of documents, including communications, radio logs, deployment orders, surveillance records, and even Pegasus spyware procurement contracts. Even US FOIA releases about Guerreros Unidos and DEA operations arrive heavily redacted, black bars over black bars. Why? Because full transparency would unmask which units were on scene, which officers coordinated what they saw, what they reported, and why they did not intervene. And perhaps most dangerous of all, why the students were targeted with the force of a joint operation. The world was told the truth was simple. But simple truths don't need thousands of pages of redactions, 3 presidents, 2 truth commissions, in a military operation designed to erase evidence. The official narrative is not broken, it was engineered. And until the Mexican Army opens its archives, the 43 remain disappeared, not just from Iguala, but from the record of a nation that still can't bear to read its own report. The truth exists behind the black bars. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more stories like this, tell us in the comments and share this video with someone else. And remember, the truth is in the redactions.